Afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joined so far. We'll start this webinar in the next minute just to allow for a few more guests to join. Thank you. So hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this series of webinars that focuses on delivering and updating you on the new features and functionality that will be available to you and your organization in Oracle's latest release 20D. This is now our fifth webinar in the series of webinars, and today we're going to be talking about the supply chain. My name is Chris Gomez, and I'm an account director here at Evosys. And my focus is on demonstrating the value that our next generation managed services, as well as some of the other innovative Evosys technologies, has on achieving maximum business value on Oracle Cloud applications. As we know, Oracle provide quarterly updates that are designed to continually drive operational excellence and enhance the user experience. So today, I'm your host for this webinar, where I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, Parth Dave, who is a senior consultant for the supply chain management application. And he'll be taking us through all of the supply chain updates in 20D. With over 8 years working with Oracle applications, he's carried out many roles ranging from pre-sales through to solution architect before moving into senior consultancy for SCM. And having worked both on e-business suite and Oracle Cloud implementation, he brings a wealth of experience to today's webinar to take us through these hot topics and everything we need to know about the main features of this release for supply chain management. And just a note, so whilst we'll try to cover as much as we can during this webinar, we may not be able to cover every single feature, so we will make an extended PowerPoint available to you at the end of the session that does cover more of the features. Okay, so just by means of an agenda, over the next 50 minutes, we'll cover three main areas. So firstly, I'll talk a little bit about how our handling and our approach to Oracle updates before handing over to Parth, who will analyze the latest release, providing an insight into the new available features, as well as highlighting things to consider when deploying them. This also covers the known issues that need to be considered as well. And Parth will talk to you for about 35 to 40 minutes before I take you through the next generation managed services and how it can help you with these Oracle releases. We will leave some time at the end to cover questions, but please do use the questions facility that we have in this webinar solution to ask questions as we go through, because we do have a team of colleagues on hand who will respond to each question as we progress through the webinar. Okay, so when we talk about an update, there are generally four categories of events that we must consider prior to deployment. So firstly comes the analysis, where we need to analyze and consider each of the options that are available to be rolled out and the impact they're going to have on user experience and productivity. Secondly, we must analyze and plan how we deploy the updates that we've decided on as part of the analysis phase, and then carry out some sort of impact analysis on the business before deploying these updates. After planning comes the user acceptance testing, which is everybody's favorite bit. And this needs to be done to ensure there are no fundamental impacts to the business once the features are deployed. And it's also the most intensive stage in this four-stage process, and it needs to be done methodically to ensure that there are no surprises. And then finally, as you all know, it's then about launching the release. And once you're happy that the tests have uncovered no showstoppers or serious headache. So once I hand over to Parth, he's going to focus on supporting that first stage in this process. And then later, what I'll hopefully do with you is just talk to you a little bit about how we can help with those other three areas. I just want to talk to you about the structure that we'll be using when Parth starts to actually deliver these new feature slides to you, because we try and bring a bit of consistency into it. So what we want to do is just show you effectively what the feature is, the short description of what that actually feature is going to give you, and also some business benefits that you're going to realize from that feature. In addition to that, we also provide you with an impact analysis with four main areas. We include the impact level that helps you to gauge the amount of testing that's going to be required. whether or not the feature needs to be enabled, configured, and also whether it's a quick win. And that's based on the level of effort and the time that's required to get this feature set up. Okay, so as I said, as Path takes us through all of the new features, you'll hopefully see this consistent look and feel and theme across each of those slides. So just before handing over to Path, what I wanted to do is just run a very quick poll with you all today. It's a question that we like to ask, and it's around how you perceive Oracle's quarterly updates. So you should see on your screen now a quick poll screen, and if you could answer the question with whether you see the quarterly update as an overhead, or actually whether you see it as a value add. So thank you very much to everyone who's voted so far. I'll just leave it open for a few more seconds to allow for everyone who wants to vote to place their votes. Okay, so I'm going to close off the poll now. And I will just share the results with you. It's actually been a constant theme that, on the whole, people generally see these quarterly updates as a value add. But for those of you on today's webinar that feel that it's actually an unnecessary overhead, stay tuned at the end, as some of those services that we have to offer may be beneficial to you, and it may actually change that view that they are an overhead. So Path, I'm sure everyone is eagerly waiting to hear from you about this release. So can you tell us what to expect in 20D for supply chain management?
Sure, Chris. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all. As per the agenda, I'll be starting with the analysis which we have done for the 20D features that have come up. To start with, we are going to share few statistics which we feel are there, which everybody needs to understand, because the features which we have are around 26, but they are divided into 4 main categories. When I say categories, it's to understand how these features would be more related to us, starting with quick win, which does not require any configuration change. There are few quick wins which does require some configuration change. When I say configuration change, it could be either setups. Some example would be changing some profile options, enabling certain checkbox within the setup when we define certain transactions. There are few features which are quick win but are opt-in. Opt-ins are the features which are available as a part of our functions, where we enable certain checkbox that will help us to allow the usage of the feature which has been enabled as part of 20D release. And then finally, the ones which we feel are not so much of a quick win to us. However, they could be certain features which may be used by the organizations as and when required. Moving to the overall analysis. So based on the divisions which I showed, I'll be starting with the quick wins that are default and does not require any configuration. So the very first would be a part of the purchasing side, which says that assign buyers to the requisition lines based on cost centers. Now we all would be knowing that there is an option of creating buyer assignment rules, which helps us to identify the buyers, and accordingly the requisition lines would be assigned to those buyers. In addition to the existing functionality of buyer assignment rule, in 20D, we have now a field called as cost centers. So those organizations, the clients who have departments or cost centers existing as a part of their setups and have the buyers dedicated to those departments and cost centers, can now define such assignment rules so that the required buyers would receive the requisition lines automatically. Overall impact would be medium. There is no need for enabling this feature. Configuration does not, there is no separate configuration needed, and we believe that this is a quick win. Moving to the next would be a part of the sourcing. The feature is identify negotiation team members who aren't active employees. So while we are creating RFQs or any part of the sourcing cycle, we assign the collaboration team, and we assign multiple people as a part of our collaboration team. It could be possible that during this assignment or during the process of RFQ, which usually takes certain time, there could be cases where the person who is assigned as a part of collaboration team may be terminated, or there would be a change in the job assignment. This usually would be not known as a part of the normal warnings which we receive, but at the time when they are being asked to either give their scores or perform certain tasks which has been assigned, we come to know that they are not available as a part of the regular employee. Hence, from the advantage which this feature gives is that it shows a warning as soon as we assign a person who may or may not be available as an regular employee, or there is a job assignment change that has already happened at the time of creating the collaboration team. So overall business impact would be that it is more beneficial to have such a warning rather than knowing at the very end. Hence, it would allow us to have better negotiation collaboration within the team which we are defining. It does not require any configuration, neither it requires any enablement, and the overall impact would be medium. Moving next, again as a part of the sourcing, the feature is inactivate seeded negotiation styles. So certain negotiation styles which are available that are the seeded standard negotiation style as a part of the out of the box functionality from Oracle. We usually have a tendency in the business to have a tailor-made negotiation styles, and to avoid unwanted selection of the existing seeded styles, now Oracle has given the feature of inactivating such negotiation styles which are seeded in nature, so that by mistake also nobody selects them, and we can focus on the ones which are tailor-made to our business. Overall impact would be low, does not require any enablement, and does not require any specific configuration. Moving to the inventory side, the feature is purge physical inventory error records. We all know that as a part of the physical inventory process, we generate the physical inventory tags, which may sometimes have not been processed, although they have been uploaded. Now, if we try to upload those specific transactions again, they may get stuck into the pending transactions, which at the end would error out. So now the feature would allow us to purge those errored records as well, so that we can clear out our pending transaction interface table and there are no stuck transactions available at the end. Overall business impact is to avoid any such pending transactions which get stuck and would create an issue at the time of period closing. It does not require any enablement and does not also require any specific configuration. Moving to the next would be a part of the cost management, where we could now use the requisition charge account as an accounting source in the cost management. So the table which we see over here are the event types under which the requisition charge account could be used as a part of the SLA setup, and hence we can mention into the setup so that the overall consistency will be there between the transaction line and if there are any associated overheads against those transfer orders. This feature as well does not require any enablement and there is no specific configuration as well. So these were the features that were available which are part of this cluster, which is quick wins, which are default and does not require any configuration. Moving to the next part, which are quick wins that are default but would require any specific configuration. Starting with purchasing, the feature is update the price on purchase order for items requested from PUNCHOUT marketplace. Few of our clients are following the PUNCHOUT process, where we know that whenever a requisition has been created as part of the PUNCHOUT process, there is no scope of updating the purchase price. However, now as a part of this feature, if we see, there is a checkbox which is available which says allow price override on purchase order lines. So as soon as the PR which has been created through PUNCHOUT process has been approved and been created into the PO, we could still go ahead and update the price, which could be a negotiation process that has been done by the buyer. So we could overall make sure that we apply consistency as part of our business practices, and also take the advantage of the negotiated prices which are there as compared to the ones which were there on the punch-out marketplaces. The business benefit is, as mentioned, price can be updated on the PO after any final negotiation has happened. This does not require any enablement, but a small configuration is been required, which is mentioned over here. Moving to the next is a part of the OTBI, our Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence, where the feature is deliver user-specific procurement BI analysis content. It could be possible that we are preparing a custom OTBI report where we want to capture any expiring blanket purchase agreements. As a part of this feature, we could understand that any specific recipient which has been derived as a part of this overall analysis, for example, the buyer, when we use the buyer column as one of our existing columns in defining this OTBI report, we could trigger this specific analysis to that buyer so that we don't need to create any specific customization or any specific coding that would require to trigger the reports specific to a user. Instead, we could focus on the buyers which have been automatically derived as a part of analysis, and the analysis would be sent automatically to that specific buyer. Overall business benefit would be we could have now user specific reports. It does require a small configuration and does not require any specific enablement. Moving to the next would be inventory side, where we have the feature of enabling overpicking for sales order or transfer orders and work orders. There could be possibility that sometimes we do require more picking, or we would say overpicking for the sales order or the transfer order or work order because of the process which we follow. Maybe the item which has been staged on the staging sub inventory does require some additional packaging. Hence, there could be possibility that more items are consumed. So the system now gives an option of picking more than what is been requested. There is a small checkbox which says allow overpicking for special handling. Overall business impact would be we would be able to make sure that we have better inventory or stock visibility at the time of issuing those specific sales order or transfer orders. There is a small configuration as mentioned, and it does not require any specific enablement. Moving to the next, that is under inventory, the feature is reserve materials for work orders. We do know that reservation is one of the critical information which is been used at the time of issuing out work orders or working on those work orders. We do need to even make sure that there should not be any interruption during the manufacturing process. So this feature now allows us to make sure that we perform a reservation, we honor the reservations, we are issuing the materials which are been reserved against the work order, and at the end we can even analyze the materials that has been reserved. The reservation process overall makes sure that the material is available on time and there is no deficiency created at the time of working on the work orders. The configuration is minimal, however, it does not require any specific enablement. One of the key features which has been made available to us as a part of 20D, and I would say no prayers would be unheard, because this is one such feature that has been weighted by everyone, which makes sure that now the financial team as well as our supply chain team could work on in even more harmony, because it will now make sure that it does not allow the general ledger period to be closed at the time when the respective costing subledger periods are open. So it works on both the ways, where it makes sure that neither the GL period would be able to would be closed at the time when the costing period has been enabled, and vice versa, it would not allow even the costing period to be closed when the GL period has been already closed. So at the end, it would make sure that we plan our period closing process effectively, and always as a suggestion, the subledger application period should be closed first and then the GL period should have been closed. This feature would make sure that there is a warning provided and even an error at the time of closing the GL period if the subsequent subledger costing period has been open. That does not require any specific enablement, but it requires a specific configuration to make sure that this specific feature is being used. This is nothing but a checkbox to enable this feature. Again, as a part of the cost management, there is an addition or I would say an enhancement on the user interface on the cost accounting distributions. There are few additions, like we are now able to see the cost information on the page of review cost accounting distribution itself. We could even navigate to the next page by changing the numbers of the page directly from the cost accounting distribution page itself, and a new field has been added, that is the sub inventory. So few enhancement has been made to the existing UI for the cost accounting distribution to make sure that we are able to view things quicker. So these were the features that are available as a part of Quick Win, which are default but require some small configuration changes. Moving to the next would be quick wins, but they are opt-ins. Opt-ins meaning it is up to us if we want to use those features or not. Starting with the first, under purchasing, assign requisition lines to the buyers on the source agreement itself. So instead of working out on an assignment rule, if we feel that the buyer who is working on the source agreement is the same who is going to work on the purchase order, we could use these features so that the PR that has been created against the source agreement would automatically be navigated to that buyer, and hence they can create the PO out of those PR. So it overall reduces the configuration need, and also there is less maintenance on the assignment rule creation. As mentioned, this is something which is an opt-in but does not require any specific configuration. Moving to the next, under purchasing, prevent cancellation of partially received or invoice purchase order. Again, this is one such feature which would help in making sure that there is more harmony between the finance as well as the procurement departments, because this now prevents us to close any purchase order that has been partially received or invoiced. What it does is that it makes sure that we are following a systematic approach, and either the goods are being received or the invoice are cancelled before we want to cancel the actual purchase order. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. Moving to the next, under purchasing, add new approved requisitions to the existing open purchase order. From 20A onwards, we were able to use this feature. However, there is an addition to it on the 20D, which is now we are even able to copy over the descriptive flex fields from the requisition to the PO. So I am sure that everybody till now would have been using this specific feature where we don't need to create a new PO. Instead, we can add an new approved requisition line to an existing purchase order as well. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. Moving to the next is under purchasing, associate a master contract with a purchasing document. This feature was again available as a part of 20B. However, the addition is that there are few additional fields which are available as a part of our OTBI tool, where we can create our own specific OTBI report in which we can even assign or associate the master contract against the specific purchasing documents. This again is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. One addition under the sourcing would be the feature is view table of contents for the contract terms within the sourcing PDF. So overall, the PDF that has been created is now providing the table of content for the contract that has been added. So it is much easier for us to navigate on that specific PDF document to reach to a specific clause or a condition that has been added as a part of our process. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. Again, under sourcing, the feature is apply internal cost factors in supplier negotiations. There could be times when we might have an additional cost on overhead cost of doing certain processes, and we would like to track that. So, and based on this feature, we would now be able to capture those internal cost factors and assign those specific cost factors to the supplier bid also, to capture them and understand how much is the additional cost which we are incurring to process certain documents or even the overall process which we could refine. This helps us to improve the overall operational efficiency. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. One addition again to the sourcing is from 20D onwards, we would now be able to create contracts as an outcome from the overall RFQ process or the negotiation process. So with the help of creating that contract, we could even use the simplified terms template. So based on this feature, it does not necessarily we don't necessarily need to have our custom terms template created. Instead, we can use the out of the box seeded simplified procurement terms template that is available. So as an outcome of the negotiation, we could create the contract, assign the awarded lines to the contract, and use the existing simplified terms template, which would reduce our overall authoring time and increase our productivity. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. Moving to the next would be the supplier profiling, where we now have an option of approving internal changes on the supplier profile. So if there are certain changes, be it on the bank accounts, be it on the organization details or an income tax data that has been updated by our internal process, we still would like to have some approval on it, which is now feasible. This helps us to make sure that we are not having any fraud, or even we are fulfilling the audit compliance based on the process which are been defined. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. One of the addition feature on the inventory side is to disable the inventory lots. The organizations which follow the lot enablement for the items which are defined, we would know that there is an feature which is known as lot uniqueness that has to be followed across various items. Now, it could be possible that by mistake somebody has mistyped the lot number, and it might have some serious ramifications. So to avoid that, what Oracle has done is that we can now disable the combination of inventory item and the lot, and it is also possible to use the existing lot number once it has been disabled. So overall, what it makes sure is that we are reducing the effort to manually track the incorrect entered lots, and also reuse the existing lot numbers that were present by disabling the specific combination against the item. And it also makes sure that we are following the lot uniqueness. This specific feature is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. So these were the quick wins which are opt-in in nature. Coming to the ones which we feel that may not have a major impact, which fall under the not quick win part. Starting with purchasing, is to apply service related tax rates for the rate based service types. So now there is an option, or there is an addition, I would say, as a new line type, which is called as rate based services, which is majorly capturing the product type as services. So earlier this was not available, and we used to create the line type as goods and make sure that the product type remains service to capture any service related procurement. But now, based on this new line type which is available, we can even enter quantities and can capture the tax related to that specific line type, and overall calculate the tax which has been which needs to be applied on that specific PR or the purchase order. The business benefit is to capture the rate based service as a new line type and to capture the tax against it. Moving to the next would be under purchasing. The feature is control electronic signature requirement for change orders. Earlier, electronic signature requirement was not there to be captured as a part of the change order process, but now we can enable the electronic signature to make sure that we are authorizing the changes on the purchase order. This specific feature is available from 20D onwards. We feel that it might not be of a major impact. However, the organizations which are still following an electronic signature as an authorization could use this feature for approving the change orders as well. Moving to the next, under purchasing, is to receive the advance shipment notice as a part of CXML format. So those suppliers who who could send us the advanced shipment notice into a specific format, that is CXML. This feature would be useful to such clients where the suppliers are able to send us the data onto that specific format. Moving to the next, under self-service procurement, the feature is use a short URL for the punch-out return. We sometimes would have come across a limitation on the overall URL length, which may turn out to be a case where we might end up into error because the correct URL has not been mentioned while defining the punch-out. Based on this feature, we are now able to link the punch-out definition with the help of a short URL so that we are pinpointing to the correct specific landing page on the vendor side. The business benefit is we could avoid the limitation of the lengthy URLs. This is a default feature, does not require any opt-in, but requires a specific configuration. Another feature under the self-service procurement is display master item packaging string in the shopping flows. So the organizations which follow dual unit of measurement, this specific feature would be helpful, where the unit of measure will be displayed, and it basically would avoid any specific confusion between those two dual unit of measure at the time of creating the PR. The business benefit, as mentioned, is to make sure that the users are not getting confused where there is a difference between the that has been displayed and the consumption unit of measure. This is an opt-in feature and does not require any specific configuration. Moving to the next, under the self-service procurement, is use the non-catalog request to order the rate-based service type. So as we saw earlier, there is an addition of the new line type which captures the service rate-based services. From now onwards, we can use the non-catalog request also, and that specific line type would be available at the time of creating the non-catalog request. Here, the additional advantage, as mentioned earlier, is that we are able to capture the quantity, even though it is a service-based line type, and we can calculate the tax which are to be applicable on that specific PR. So these were the features that are available for us as a part of the 20D. There are a few bugs that have been solved as a part of 20D, which are known issues to us, and I'll be going through that as well. Starting with the very first is the collapse approval details in the notification. So there was a bug which has been registered to improve the overall performance of the email or the online notifications which are there for the approval part. So from 20D onwards, there is an option of hide or show the actions or the hierarchy that has been generated on both online as well as the email approval notifications. This will be governed based on the profile option mentioned over here. This is a default feature. A small configuration, that is the profile option, needs to be enabled to access this specific feature. Moving to the next, another bug was registered to evaluate all the blanket purchase agreement lines during the change order approval. So earlier there was not an option if there has been any changes made on the purchase agreement header. If we are making any changes on the purchase agreement line, only then at the time of submitting that specific document would the approval be triggered. But from now on, based on this specific profile option, we could even capture the changes that are happening at the header level. Moving to the next, recent activities infolette in the purchase order work area shows data from last 14 days. So there has been a bug registered which was addressing the performance overall for the infolette that is present on the purchase order work area. From now on, this will be only showing the data for last 14 days. However, we can still increase the number of days, but it may impact the overall performance of the infolette that is available. This again also will be captured through the profile option. Last but not the least is the performance improvement for the manage buyer assignment rules page. So there has been two bugs that have been registered, and both have been addressed. By default, from now on, the overall result which are been displayed on the buyer assignment rule will not be automatically displayed. Instead, one would need to navigate onto it and execute the search manually. Similarly, when we create the buyer assignment rule which are based on commodity, the list of value of the commodity will not be displayed automatically. Instead, one would need to type down the commodity name to search that specific commodity or the category. So these were the two bugs that have been registered to enhance the performance of the buyer assignment rule. This concludes the overall features that have been provided by Oracle as a part of 20D. Over to you, Chris.
Oh, thanks so much for your analysis on the features. I'm sure that there's lots in there that each of our guests will look at today and look to deploy them in their organizations to benefit from them. Okay, so just going on to the next stage of our webinar now. So earlier we spoke about the 4-step cycle to handling a release. And we've just spent some time analyzing some of those features that we can expect in supply chain management. And so once you've finalize the analysis after today, you'll no doubt start the planning and rolling out with your teams and commence the testing. If you're already an Evosys customer and want us to be involved in these phases, you can actually speak to your project manager who'll be able to give you a bit more insight into how we can help you with those. And likewise for non-Evosys customers that have joined us today, that wanting to know more about how we can help with these, please do get in touch with us and we can talk you through our services. One of the most exciting areas is, for me anyway, is our use of a technology that can save you up to 70% of your testing time. So we all know the overhead that UAT creates across a business, but this solution we use runs all the defined processes that we configure in there and captures screenshots as it progresses through, before marking those processes as a success or failure. So we can then focus our time on the failed processes, and then we can review and resolve any config issues with you. And if necessary, we can alert Oracle to any software-related issues that need to be fixed, whilst also working on the potential workarounds whilst we wait for those fixes. And the great thing about this is that it's not just about the time saved, it's also about the elapsed time. So it's the speed in which the tests are being done to give us more elapsed time to make sure that you're ready as part of that testing phase. And the other thing to consider is that we can also work with you on the impact analysis. So Parth obviously took us through each of those features with defining an impact analysis for each, but effectively, some of these impacts are going to vary from organization to organization. So if you wanted us to, we can actually work with you to further understand how it's going to affect your organization. Okay, so our services go beyond supporting the quarterly updates, and I'm really pleased and excited to tell you a little bit more about the Evosys Next Generation Managed Services and what it can do to help you. So we at Evosys are passionate about driving business value from Oracle Cloud. And that's why our managed service doesn't focus on keeping the lights on for our customers. It focuses on what can be done to continually improve the outcomes of using Oracle Cloud apps. So we very much see our managed services as a partnership to work with you to enhance your Oracle Cloud experience and not just keep the lights on. And we ultimately want you to get the business value out of this relationship. So our managed services has a number of options to give you the flexibility to define the services that are right for your business. Overarching and complementing our managed services is our value-based analytics that are used to measure and monitor business-defined KPIs that focuses the attention on continuous improvement. There are many areas where the value-based analytics can be used, so please do contact us to find out more. But what I can actually do is I can just give you a small bit of insight into the value-based analytics, and I can tell you that we have over 140 pre-built KPIs and over 340 analytics to measure and monitor return on investment and And it very much allows you to change that mindset when thinking about Oracle Cloud. You begin to look at proactiveness instead of reactiveness, look at business value and carry out changes based on fact. And the VBAs across the system are separated into 4 main areas. So you have process optimization, you have system adoption, you have information output and audit and compliance. So it allows you to start monitoring those areas and getting answers to those questions that you may have in each of those areas. Our next generation managed service is also about empowerment and helping you to drive a lot more self-sufficiency. Some of this is also about leveraging the technology value adds that we use as part of the wider service. So things like the use of responsive digital assistants, for example, to help with self-sufficiency, as well as robotic process automation, or RPA as we know it to be now, to remove some of those repetitive manual tasks. And then this opens up the ability for a more focused work on innovation and continuous improvement. And for me personally, collaboration plays an important part in innovating. So we continually work together with our customers to drive those innovations. And then lastly, it encourages KPI-driven support. So traditional managed services would monitor ticket numbers and length of time taken to close tickets and then just focus on that. But we don't do this. Our KPI-driven approach focuses on our customers getting a good outcome, which ultimately means reducing the number of tickets and looking at how to reduce those number of tickets. So what we also do is we ensure we look at that root cause and investigate that and resolve those root causes to stop further instances from happening. And then it allows us more time to work on other areas that I mentioned earlier by having less tickets to coming in. So our approach is also about ensuring that we maintain the service level commitments that we set out at the start with the customer and continue to provide greater value through agreeing on and delivering better outcomes. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into some of the services and managed services. And as we draw towards the end of our webinar now, I've just got some closing remarks to share with you before we move and answer any questions that are still remaining. So what happens next? Hopefully you found this webinar useful and everything that Parth had to say. We will be sharing the presentation that we used today, as well as we're actually recording this session, so we'll be able to share the recording with you if you wanted to play back and actually analyze a bit more some of those things that Parth took you through. And we'll also be providing some example test scripts that you can also use. A personal plea from me, it's really important for us as a business that you get value out of these sessions. So we would very much like to hear from you. Any feedback that you have, good or bad, ways that we could potentially improve this, what you were potentially expecting versus what we actually delivered. So really, please do, if you can, give us some of that feedback. Also, if you're an Evosys customer, please speak to your project manager. And if you're a non-Evosys customer, please contact us either by visiting our website or by emailing us at the email that you can see in front of you now. If you want to find out a bit more about those additional services around quarterly updates, or if you wanted to speak to us about sort of the wider service of managed services. This, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of a series of webinars that focus on 20D. Now, we have already carried out some webinars this week, and if, for example, that there are some webinars that your colleagues may have found useful, there are recordings available on our website that they can actually play back. We will conclude these series of webinars tomorrow with 2 payroll webinars, one focusing on the UK and one focusing on the US. So if you do have any colleagues in payroll that would like to actually attend those, or that you feel would be valuable for them to attend those webinars, please do let them know and ask them to register on our website. Okay, Parth, so we're going to move now to see if there's any outstanding questions.
Sure, Chris.
So we have got a question here, and hopefully I've answered this for you. The question is around accessing the PowerPoint and recording. So for anyone that's attended today, you will receive an email from us with all of the relevant links, and you will also have be able to access our website as well, and go to the webinar section where you'll be able to see previous recordings of other sessions as well. So I'm just going to wait to see if there's any other questions from our guests before we draw this session to a close. Okay, it sounds like we've answered all the questions as we've gone throughout. So if there are no more questions, I'd like to thank everyone again for attending this webinar, and I sincerely hope that you found it useful, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.